Now, I mentioned in the update video that there weren't going to be too many projects like this I was interested in doing for the channel moving forward, but this is one game in particular I was especially anxious to play, and I hope it's one that you guys were looking forward to watching me play as well. Hello guys! This is UniversalGiant, and let's play another Metroid 2 Remake. Now before you go frantically searching any past playlists on the channel, I want to reassure you, you have not missed me play any different remakes of Metroid 2. The actual game's title is another Metroid 2 Remake. Now this game was mainly developed by a single person, Milton Guasti, whose name I hope I didn't butcher too badly, on and off for roughly 10 years or so. And throughout the process he picked up a number of volunteers who are willing to work on graphical assets and sound effects and other things like that. But for the most part it was developed by a single person, and unlike a lot of other remakes or ROM hacks, this is a standalone game that was made in Game Maker, not a ROM hack in any way, shape, or form. One thing I do feel the need to mention is that within a couple of days of its release, it was taken down, so you'll have a difficult time finding the game if you're looking for it. And since I got it directly off the forum before that happened, I can't tell you where to find it. But if you're watching this video, chances are you're resourceful enough to find it on your own. I have faith in you. One last thing I want to address before we get into this is that this will not be a blind playthrough. I know a lot of you were probably hoping that it would be, but I had originally played it as a blind stream over on my Twitch channel, and since it didn't have any commentary, I figured it would be a bit boring to watch or to post-commentate. So instead, I opted to do a proper Let's Play knowing exactly what I should be doing, and hopefully that isn't too much of an inconvenience for you guys. I will try to sprinkle in some bits and pieces from my original playthrough where I struggled, what was difficult for me to figure out, that sort of thing. But it also gave me the opportunity to look up some of the things in the original game that I hadn't been exposed to see where the remake shines compared to the original, how it stayed true to it, all that fun stuff. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. Now for those unfamiliar, Metroid 2 was a game that was originally released on the Game Boy. That's the old 8-bit grayscale screen. And it didn't have any of this background information in the game itself. Most of it was taken from the instruction manual. But since later games like Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion had these little vignettes at the beginning of the game to give you some background on what was going on, they decided to put that in AM2R to make it feel a little bit more at home with the way the series has advanced over the years. And of course, this follows up to the original Metroid released on the NES. And the objective of AM2R is to do for Metroid 2 what Zero Mission did for the original Metroid. And now we begin the game proper. So a lot of your classic mechanics from previous Metroid games are here. You have the regular jump, you can jump straight up in the air, or you can do a spinny jump. You can fire your pea shooter if you want to by tapping the shoot button. And if you're looking for other particular mechanics, you can wall jump if you're adept enough to do it, but there's nothing up there, so I'm not going to bother with it. There are also a couple of things that you begin the game with, including missiles, which we need in order to destroy the Metroids. It is, after all, the reason why we're on this planet. And we also start with the Morph Ball. So you'll notice right away there are a lot of differences between this and the original. For starters, the screen is much bigger, we have greater mobility, the graphical and sound overhaul. But if you're just playing this straight and you've never seen Metroid 2 like I was when I first played, you're going to notice that most of the mechanics that you're used to from the later games are all here. So everything should feel nice and familiar. You have the power grip to start with that was introduced in, I think it was Zero Mission. And if you want, there's a secret path up here that we can go in that I'm pretty sure was in the original too. So if you don't feel like going the whole normal way this way, you can do that. There are a number of little paths like that throughout, although I think a lot of them are centered in the beginning of the game. And most of the music that you hear is a remix of the original game. And I forget which way we want to go. These are your save points. They save and refill your health, unlike the original where there were two separate spots to do both jobs. And throughout we'll see pools of lava that are blocking our way. I'm pretty sure this isn't the correct direction that we want to go. But I think there should be something blocking us, so it's interesting to always check out and see what it is keeping us from progressing. So the main gimmick of this game is that they had to do something to slow your progression deeper into the planet. And although I believe later updates were scheduled to allow you to progress to any point in the planet that you wanted to later on, if you'd already beaten the game before, there wasn't any opportunity to include that here, at least not for a New Game Plus like they were originally planning. So in order for us to continue through the planet, we're going to have to figure out a way to lower that lava. And I think this is another one of those places where you can cheat your way through. Got a tunnel all the way off to the left over there. Don't worry, we'll be coming back in the normal way. Or getting out the way we were supposed to come down. So you have the little frogs here. And of course, we brought missiles with us. Because why would we come down to exterminate all of the Metroids if we didn't have the one weapon we needed to destroy them? And apparently you don't need the ice beam for that. At least not in this game, you don't. But funnily enough, that was one of the things that slowed my progression at the beginning of the game, because I did not realize you start with missiles. So I was stuck at that door figuring out what I was supposed to do without realizing I had missiles to begin the game with. So one interesting aspect of AM2R is that they include these little scans for you like in the Prime series, where they're completely optional, you don't have to open them if you don't want to, but they're automatically added into your logbook if you ever want to look at them. And when you first have access to them, it'll bring it up automatically, such as the Alpha Metroid here. We're used to seeing all the Metroid larvae, the big green brain-sucky things. But those are actually just the baby forms of the Metroids, and now that we're entering their home planet where they can evolve naturally, we're going to be seeing a lot more difficult Metroids to deal with, including this little guy. The Alpha Metroid has gained immunity to cold temperatures, so even if we had the ice beam, it wouldn't be very effective. The loss of several nuclei within its green membrane has left it vulnerable to concussive weaponry. A plated exoskeleton partially covers it. This organism emerges from the molting of its larval form. Though aggressive, it is relatively weak at this stage, and its new appendages have yet to grow to their full length and strength. So also, in case you didn't realize, I am playing on a keyboard, and the keyboard is not the best way to play this game, because you're limited in terms of what buttons you can hold down at a time. So firing at a diagonal while shooting missiles is particularly difficult for me because I'm stubborn and refuse to change my control scheme. So that'll be a bit of a running problem. But the way Metroid 2 handles progression, as you can see, is that once we defeat a certain number of Metroids in a given area, we'll get these earthquakes. The massive cave system is located between two tectonic plates, largely flooded by an extremely dense and caustic substance similar to magma. The recent earthquake has altered the cave layout and hazardous substances drained to lower levels. The cause of the earthquake is unknown. Initial orbital scan of SR-388 detected no instability within this region. So the main gimmick is that later areas will open up as we clear the present areas of Metroids. So in order to progress, we're just going to have to go kill a bunch of Metroids, hope that the lava goes down, and then continue on. And like I said, although there was an update that may have included or excluded the lava so you could travel to any point you wanted to in a new game, plus no such update ever made, so this is the only game we got. Would have been interesting to see how you could route the game later on. There are a number of different items you do and don't necessarily have to get. So it's kind of interesting to see what you're capable of completing the game without. But for now, there's just a lot of running around from place to place. And admittedly, that's one of the shortcomings of remaking a game like Metroid 2, which was originally made, and we'll see once the map is revealed to a greater extent than it already is, because we've only explored this a little bit, you'll start to see just how big of an area this world has, and now we can travel down. But one of the main issues is that there's a lot of tunnels and a lot of hallways. And the original Metroid 2 didn't suffer from this as badly, but it was due to the fact that it didn't have a proper map. Now that wasn't because they were too lazy to make a map, but the world that they were using didn't necessarily make logical sense. I'll get into that once we finish reading the 4 Metroids in the area, it said. Every time we enter a new area, it'll give us a Metroid count to tell us how many things we have to kill in here before we can move on. But the issue is the map of the original Metroid 2 didn't make sense. A lot of rooms overlapped with each other, which you can do programming-wise, because the only thing a door really is a pointer in memory telling you which room to go into next in memory, not necessarily requiring it to be physically next to the other room. And if you've ever seen a speedrun with a wrong warp, you have an idea that that's a thing that happens. But if you want a map like this that actually makes sense to the player, things had to be spread out a bit. So a lot of the caves and hallways in AM2R are significantly longer than they were in the original. And they tried to spice things up a bit, but there's still going to be a lot of running around through tunnels and such. Now, as much as I'd like to go down this way because it looks all lovely and welcoming, we can't go through here yet. So I think we're going to have to go back and hope we can find some more ball bombs. But one of the interesting things about AM2R is that they modeled a lot of the areas after visual assets from other games. So I think most of the visuals you'll see, like here, come from Zero Mission. So particularly the little bird blocks are from Chizodia. And they're, I mean, naturally, because we have access to different colors that were not available in the black and white of the Game Boy, you're going to have more character in that department. But they also tried to add a little bit of backstory to each of the individual areas, such as the one that we're in now, the Golden Temple. This temple stands at the base of a hollow mountain. The statues, carved stones, and its solid design attest to the structure that was built to be a sanctuary, possibly with religious significance. The temple has withstood the test of time, showing the building knowledge and experience of the Chozo. Scans detect the presence of stationary robotic entities, placed as strategic points inside the structure. No control signals are detected. These units are operating autonomously. I keep pressing the wrong button to go back. I think you can just exit out of the pause screen directly. But unlike the original game, where a lot of the areas seemed kind of similar just due to graphical limitations, they did everything that they could in this game to spice things up and make each area feel unique. So we have these things that shoot things at us, and again another bomb block blocking our way. So I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to get bombs. And again, you do have the ability to shoot diagonally. I'm just not going to be making as good use of it as I probably should be because of my control scheme, so it's probably going to bother people. I hope it doesn't bother you too badly. And most of the Metroid upgrades that you expect, you'll be able to find in this game. We got morph ball bombs, we got missile tank expansions, all that fun stuff. And missiles are going to be of particular importance to us because we need them in order to defeat the Metroids. You'll also notice this block is a different color! Secret passages are going to abound here too. Just about everything you've come to expect from a modern 2D Metroid game are available in AM2R. And you may also notice these blocks are different. And that opens up an energy tank for us. So already we've seen pretty much everything we've come to expect from a proper Metroid. We barely scratched the surface of the first area. Now, I don't think there's anything down below we can do. There may be. Also, if we stand here and wait for that guy to fire, you can see his shot doesn't dissipate against the wall. What does that mean? Missiles! So if you're just looking for... Yeah, I also like the fact that the missile expansions don't give you the whole missile fanfare every time. Now, it looks like we'd be able to pass on to the other side, but I don't see a way through quite yet. Yeah, there is this one little thing down here we can't do anything with for a little while, so we'll just leave it be and remember it's there for later. I guess that does give me an excuse to show off one other thing. You may notice there's a little thing on the bottom left corner that says place marker. If you place marker, you can put it on it's like a little waypoint, which if you remember, for instance, there's a thing there, I want to remember to go back there later, you can place the marker there, and you can see on the map, it appears in the top right, and if we off-screen it on the map, it'll appear as a blinking arrow, so we'll know which way to go if we ever want to go back there. So we're just getting all of the traditional Metroid stuff. Charge Beam, Missile Expansion, Morph Ball Bombs. I forget if the Charge Beam was in the original Metroid 2. I forgot you were there! Now you can also destroy these things in one hit with missiles if you want to. I usually don't see the need, but you can. We have so many missiles at this point. The thing is, I tend not to use the marker because I'll always forget what it is I put there. And I'll always have that blinking arrow on my screen. So I'll just show off here. There's a locked door, we can't do anything until we figure out what to do with this, so we'll just have to remember it for later. And I think at this point we still have a room up at the top to explore. Because we came in here, but we never went all the way up. But if you're familiar with the previous 2D Metroid titles, and you're looking for a good time and you haven't had one in almost 15 years, AM2R's got you covered. I mean, we're not even 15 minutes into the game, and you can probably already see all the stuff. You have to hit those in a set order, by the way. You can already see, even though all of the controls, all of the AI had to be programmed in separately because it was made as a new game rather than a ROM hack, it was made with so much attention to detail that you'll feel right at home. And that's one of the things I love about this game the most. Now, if you're careful enough, you can also wall jump. I'm never good enough at it to do it for the life of me. I'll give it an honest try. I think this ledge in particular is especially difficult because you can barely get enough of a grip. And at this point, I don't even think it's all that necessary because we could have gotten dumped directly on the other side of the temple anyway, if we just went out the door on the opposite side over here. Because that's where that would have went. But you may also notice there are more Metroid Lorba shells. You didn't think we were done with those yet. And I guess next time, we'll figure out how to get to it. See you then.